What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. I'm James. You're watching Blue Dog Reptiles, and today we're talking about something that we have never ever had before, which is really exciting, really cool, and it's currently living in our middle paludarium. Now you may say, James, well, wasn't that designated for the red-eyed crocodile skinks? Yes, it was. After doing some research and talking with a few friends, they don't do well in big habitats. They have a harder time finding food. And so currently we are setting them up temporarily in this enclosure right here. This is just, like I said, temporary, and I'll show you why. This was their current enclosure, but as you can see, it's empty. That's because it's all right here. Now, why did we strip it? Well, we stripped it for a couple of different reasons. One, as you all know, we went through and we installed misting systems and drains in all the enclosures. This one, however, was never drilled because it was set up prior to us installing the misting systems. Now, it was long overdue for being redone, and it was kind of getting stagnant, so we wanted to go through and redo it. This will be their forever, the red-eyed crocodile skinks forever home. But that is not the animal we're actually talking about today, but I just wanted to kind of give you an update because this is going to be a video on how we redesign it and how we set it up. So without further ado, let's jump into the animal we're actually here to talk about. Now, the animal we're talking about actually comes from the sub-Saharan of Africa. It comes from the Congo and a few other places. There's not much known about them, and I will say, as much as I hate wild-caught animals, and it's not something that we normally do, this is an animal that we brought in for the strict purposes of breeding and hoping to raise the population because they are being stripped of a lot of their habitat. And so we want to help conserve their species. Can you guess what it is yet? Oh, can you see a little bit of it right there? I did open this up so we could see a little bit better. Now, this enclosure is doing great. The creeping ficus is taking off. And as you can see, we have the water going in it. There's actually a current going in it. It's just not a strong current. But a little bit more about the species. So this species actually only grows 3 to 5 feet. Oh, and he's coming to make an appearance. Guys, this is the West African file snake. Now, these guys are absolutely amazing, and I doubt you've ever seen one in captivity. These guys are not for beginners, and if you give me a minute here, we're actually going to pull this out so you can actually see the full setup, or well, I mean the full snake itself. Isn't that absolutely crazy? Now, we don't want to mess with this snake too much. Like I said, we are going to bring it out so you guys can see it. But these guys are docile in nature. They typically don't have an attitude like some of your other species do. But they can be fast when they want to be. I mean, that's why you have to be very careful with them. You have to make sure that you have eyes on them, because in a blink of eye, they can go whoop, out, just out and about, and they're coming to see you. Temperature on these guys is typically 75 to 88 degrees. We have them up here in the paludarium. They are so their habitat is, and this is the reason why we put them in here. These guys would actually prefer to be burrowed and hiding in rocks and caves. And I just felt that this would be the ideal setup, as I specifically designed this enclosure with lots of caves and lots of hides. And that way, and the hides aren't terribly deep. That way you can still visibly see the snake. Humidity is at 50%. And we actually have that, which you can see he was out exploring because the misting head is redirected. But that's all right, you know. We've actually had to glue a couple of misting heads in place because of some of our other snakes as well. Now, typically, and no, this is not the file snake. I just thought he was cute to show because He's actually out. Look at him. This is a raptor boa. Isn't he so cute? But for the file snake, they should be in no bigger than like a 36 by 18 by 12. Currently, we have them set up in a 36 by 18 by 24. They don't actually make this enclosure anymore. I know Exoterra is actually trying to bring this enclosure back. But if you look at the ground space up here, it equates to about 36 by 18 by 12. They don't need terribly a lot of height, and that's just because they are a burrowing species. They are a ground species, and that's what they like to do. Lifespan on these guys is typically 15 to 20 years. So they all do have a pretty decent lifespan on them. Things to keep in mind, like because this is a wild specimen, we are going to treat them for parasites. We already treated them for mites. So keep that in mind. If you ever do get a wild caught specimen, first thing you do, contact your vet and treat them immediately for parasites, because odds are they have it. We treat for mites just because it's a preventative. Even though we didn't see any mites on him, we want to make sure, because they can have darker eyes, and so sometimes mites will actually get in the eyes or underneath the chin. Now, where these guys come from, they are from dense forests, swamps, stuff like that. That's also why we put them in a paludarium, because as these plants grow in, it'll become a dense, thick forest, and it'll be perfect for them. But as you can see, it's slowly starting to grow in. We did have a little plant die off, but that's all right. And I think that's from the snake moving, because this branch actually used to be up there. But no worries on that. Now, on to diet and breeding. So normally I don't cover breeding when it comes to animals, because, you know, if you want to go in depth and figure out how to breed, absolutely, that is your choice. One of the things to keep in mind if you're going to go with a West African file snake is they will eat each other. So make sure to keep eyes on them and watch them very carefully, because here's their diet. They will eat anything that will fit in their mouth. Birds, frogs, lizards, rodents, other snakes. So definitely keep that in mind. And the reason why we say that these aren't beginner snakes, yes, they're docile. Yes, they don't have attitude, like, let's say, boas, or... On a side note, why are you being so awkward? What are you doing? But attitudes, like I said, sometimes hogs can have a little bit of attitude. We actually just got one in the back that's going to be for future breeding purposes, and he has quite the attitude. So something similar that would have attitude would be like a bull snake. So for attitude wise, but don't have that attitude. They are docile in nature. But like I said, man, I am getting so sidetracked here, but why are they not for beginners? And it's mostly because of their requirements. They're not something that, like a ball python or a corn snake, that would be easy going and whatnot. These guys can bite. It is rare that they bite, but it's more for narrowing down their temperature and their humidity to make sure that's correct, and then also keeping up with their wide variety diet. You can't just feed them rodents. You have to feed them lizards. You have to feed them frogs. Now, we are going to try to adjust this snake so where it's just eating rodents, with the occasional like quail or something like that, because these guys will eat quail eggs as well. But the other thing with them is, you know, they're not an expensive snake. Some hogs can be up to $1,000. Monitors can be over $1,000. Chameleons, 500 to 1,000. Ball pythons, $100 to sky's the limit with ball pythons, depending on their morphs. But these guys are only $100. So overall, their price to buy the snake is not expensive. Their habitat, however, is the expensive part. You do need a lush forest. You do need a water source. Now, could I just have a water bowl in here? Yes. But this was already set up as a paludarium, And so that's a perfect water source for them. You also need to make sure that there are plenty of hides. So I know I've been stalling long enough. You guys ready to see this boy? Here we go. Look at him. He is absolutely stunning. Now, if you were to ever feel, this boy's actually getting ready to go into shed. So his colors are kind of dull. But if you were to feel him, a lot of his scales actually stick up. And so that's part of the reason why they get their name of the file snake, but it's also the position of how their scales sit is also how they get their name. You can see, I mean, this one is a wild specimen, but just a sweetheart. Absolutely. Hi. Now, if you didn't know this about snakes, if they're doing a long tongue flick like this one is here, they're just exploring. They're not trying to eat you or anything like that. But if they start doing short tongue flicks, it means that they are interested in you as food. So things to keep in mind when having a snake. Look at this, just absolutely so pretty. And I just couldn't pass up on the opportunity of owning one of these guys and helping with the conservation of them. But we'll come down here. We'll kind of let him unwind. I did. What are you doing? You unraveling yourself? Absolutely beautiful. I can't get over how stunning this snake is right here. Just so pretty. Hi, are you exploring? Yes. Absolutely stunning. What do you guys think? Now, we will have another one coming in that is captive bred, but we won't introduce them for quite some time, just to make sure that this one is healthy and what have you. Oh, peekaboo. I see you. As always, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe, and we will see you guys next time.